The door is unlatched. It's the deepest part of winter in the Alps. Snow presses against the windows. Inside, the fire has burned low. The spinning wheel sits abandoned. Unwashed dishes rest on the table. A half-mended shirt lies crumpled in the corner. Your family sleeps. You don't hear her enter. She moves through your room without sound. Her eyes take in everything. The dust on the mantel, the disorder, the laziness. She sees what you left undone, what you ignored, what rules you broke. She knows. You cannot hide from her. You cannot explain. You cannot apologize. Tonight, she is your judge, and she has already made her decision. We think of winter as a time for comfort now. Warm homes, full pantries, electric lights that push back the dark. But for centuries in the Alpine villages of Austria, Bavaria, and Switzerland, winter was different. It was a test, a season that separated the prepared from the careless, the disciplined from the lazy. And in those mountains, they believed someone was watching. Her name was Perchta, not a saint, not a demon, something older, something tied to the season itself. She did not come to bring gifts or joy. She came to inspect, to judge, to enforce the rules that kept people alive. This is her story, first as the villagers knew it, the folklore they passed down through generations, the figure they feared in the longest nights. Then we will ask why. Why did they need her? What was she really enforcing? But first, the story itself, the way they told it to their children. The old women would say that Perchta comes during the 12 nights, between Christmas and Epiphany, when the year turns and when the darkness is deepest. They described her differently depending on the village, depending on who was telling the story, depending on what lesson needed teaching. Sometimes she appeared as a beautiful woman in white, noble and regal, her face shining like moonlight on snow. When she looked like this, children were told, she was deciding whether to bless your household or not. Other times, most often, she came as something else. An old woman with iron teeth, wild hair, 1 foot larger than the other. A goose foot, some said, or a swan's foot, something not quite human. But however she appeared, her eyes were always the same. They saw everything. Mothers warned their children that she knows if you have been lazy, if you have wasted thread, if you have left your work unfinished, if you have been disobedient. The rules were specific, exact. By Perchta's feast day, January 6th, all the flax had to be spun. Every bit of it. The spinning wheel could not hold unfinished work. If it did, Perchta would know. She would see it. On her night, you had to eat the right foods, fish and porridge, simple meals, nothing rich, nothing wasteful. If you ate meat on Perchta's night, you showed disrespect. And Perchta noticed disrespect. Keep your house clean. Keep your children obedient. Follow the winter customs exactly as they had always been followed. The grandmothers promised that if you did these things, Perchta might leave you something. A coin in your shoe. A blessing on your animals. Your children would stay healthy through winter. The children would nod. They understood the promise. But then came the warning. If you did not, the voices would drop. The firelight would flicker. The wind outside would seem louder. Perchta comes at night. You will not hear her. You will be sleeping, and she will enter your house. She will walk through every room. She will see what you have done and what you have not done. Some villagers said she came alone, a tall figure moving silently through the dark. Others said she led a procession, the wild hunt. Dead spirits, lost souls, things that should not be awake in winter. They followed her across the sky and down into the villages. You could hear them sometimes, voices in the wind, footsteps on the roof. The stories said she inspects everything, the dust, the disorder, the broken promises, the lazy work. She stands in your room while you sleep, and she decides. The children asked what she decides. The answer was always the same. You deserve. If Perchta found you guilty, if your household failed her standards, she did not forgive. She did not give warnings. She did not offer second chances. She simply did what needed to be done. Some versions said she marks you, and when you wake, you know. You feel it, and the whole village knows too. Everyone sees what Perchta thought of you. Others told a darker tale. She takes the lazy ones, the disobedient ones. You go to sleep in your bed, but in the morning, you are gone. No one knows where. Perchta took you. Parents used her name like a tool. Finish your spinning, or Perchta will come for you. Eat your porridge. Clean the floor. Obey your father. And the children believed, because everyone believed. The adults never smiled when they spoke of Perchta. They never suggested the stories might not be true. They never reassured. They just reminded. The 12 nights are coming. Perchta is watching. Finish your work, keep order, follow the rules. And at night, when the wind howled and the house creaked, children lay awake wondering, is that her? Is she here? Is she deciding right now? They could not see her, but they knew she could see them. But the stories didn't stop at warnings. They told exactly what Perchta did. The folklore does not hide what Perchta did to those she judged guilty. In stories told to children, passed between adults and recorded by collectors of Alpine traditions, her punishment was specific, violent, symbolic. She would cut open the stomach of the guilty. Then she would remove what was inside, the organs, the proof of what they consumed, what they wasted, and she would fill the empty space with garbage, with straw, with stones, with the debris of a disordered life. This was not random cruelty. It was precise judgment. If you wasted food during a time of scarcity, your body would be filled with trash. If you were lazy while others worked, you would be stuffed with straw, empty, useless, unproductive. If your life was disordered, your insides would reflect that chaos. The punishment fit the crime exactly. Adults heard these stories and understood the symbolism, the warning, but children heard them differently. For them, Perchta was real, immediate, a presence that could enter any room where rules were broken. Parents did not soften the stories. They used them. Finish your work or Perchta will come. Clean your plate. Obey. Keep order. And it worked. Because Perchta did not forgive. She did not make exceptions. She simply enforced. The rules existed. You followed them, or you faced her. Winter gave no second chances. Neither did she. But why? Why did these people need such a terrifying figure? Why did they tell these stories to their own children? The answer lies in the mountains. Here is what we need to understand. Here is where the story becomes history. Perchta existed because Alpine winter was genuinely dangerous. These villages were isolated. Snow blocked the passes for months. Help could not reach you. Supplies could not be replenished. You survived on what you prepared in autumn, or you did not survive at all. Inside the house, order meant survival. Food preservation required exact discipline. One mistake and your stores would spoil. Mold, rot, disease. A single careless act could kill your family by February. Spinning and weaving were not hobbies. They were essential. Winter was when households produced clothing, blankets, and trade goods for the year ahead. If you wasted time, you would freeze. Your children would freeze. There was no store to buy from, no backup plan. Cleanliness prevented illness. In close quarters, with no medicine, one infection could spread through an entire household. Hygiene was not optional. It was life or death. Cleanliness mattered, and fuel mattered. Every log had to be rationed. The fire could not go out. It could not be wasted either. Fuel was survival. This is why Perchta's rules sound so harsh. They were not arbitrary. They were the actual requirements of Alpine winter survival, translated into folklore. Finish your spinning. Keep the house clean. Do not waste food. Obey authority. Finish and obey. These rules kept people alive. Perchta did not invent them. She enforced them. But she did more than keep individuals alive. She kept entire communities functioning. And that required something even more powerful than fear. Folklore does more than teach survival skills. It enforces social order. Perchta didn't just punish laziness. She punished disobedience, disrespect, breaking from community norms. In a society where everyone's survival depended on cooperation, individualism was dangerous. If one family hoarded resources, others starved. If one household let hygiene slip, disease spread. If children didn't learn discipline early, they became liabilities later. So Perchta became the enforcer of collective responsibility. She was the answer to a problem every tight-knit community faces. How do you make people follow rules when there's no police force, no courts, no external authority? You create an internal one. You make judgment inevitable, personal, supernatural. You can hide laziness from your neighbors. You can lie to your family. But you can't hide from Perchta. She sees everything. She knows, and she will come. This is why the punishment imagery is so extreme. It had to be. Abstract warnings don't work on children. Philosophical arguments don't change behavior under stress. But fear does. Not terror, not cruelty, but the clear, cold understanding that actions have consequences. That disorder leads to suffering, that the rules exist for a reason. Perchta made that abstract truth visceral, real, unforgettable. And in doing so, she kept communities intact through the hardest season of the year. But Perchta herself did not appear out of nowhere. She came from somewhere older, something that existed before Christianity reached the mountains. The question is, what? Where did Perchta come from? The honest answer is, we do not know exactly. There is no ancient pagan text that describes her, no Roman account, no archaeological proof of her origins. But the evidence suggests she is old, very old. Her name might come from Perchta, which means the bright one in Old High German. Some scholars connect her to pre-Christian Germanic goddesses, figures associated with winter, death, and the turning of the year. What we do know is that when Christianity spread through the Alps, it did not erase these older beliefs. It absorbed them. It reshaped them. It gave them new context. Perchta became associated with Christian feast days. Her night aligned with Epiphany. Her rules mixed pagan winter customs with Christian morality. The church did not fully approve, but it tolerated her because she was useful. She enforced the same values the church wanted: discipline, obedience, hard work, and humility. So Perchta survived, not as a goddess, not as a demon, but as something in between. She became a figure of folk Catholicism, part of the unofficial spiritual world that existed alongside official doctrine. And over time, she changed forms. In some regions, she split into multiple beings, the Perchtan. Groups of wild winter spirits appeared in processions and festivals. Some were beautiful, some monstrous, some blessed, some punished. Today you can still see Perchtan runs in Alpine towns. People in elaborate masks and costumes parade through the streets during winter festivals. Tourists watch, cameras flash, but the old meaning lingers underneath. And that raises one final question. If Perchta was so feared, so powerful, so essential to Alpine culture, why does she still exist at all? Perchta doesn't judge households anymore. We don't fear her entering our homes at night. We don't tell children she will punish them for laziness. The rules she enforced, finish your spinning, eat porridge on her feast day, no longer apply. Central heating replaced the rationed fire. Grocery stores replaced autumn preservation. Modern medicine reduced the stakes of household hygiene. Winter stopped being a test of survival. And when winter changed, Perchta changed too. She became folklore, a story, a festival character, a symbol of the past. But here's what's interesting. She didn't disappear. The Perchtan runs continue. The costumes get more elaborate each year. People still perform the old rituals, even if they don't believe in the old reasons, because memory outlasts necessity. Perchta remains in the culture not because people fear her, but because she represents something deeper. A time when order mattered absolutely, when rules weren't suggestions, when winter itself was the judge and survival was the only verdict that counted. The modern festivals are loud, colorful, safe. But if you listen closely, underneath the noise you can still hear the old silence, the quiet of a winter night, the sound of someone watching, deciding, judging what you've done and what you've left undone. So what was Perchta really? The answer might be simpler and more important than we think. Perchta was not a monster, not a goddess, not even a cautionary tale in the way we usually think of them. Perchta was a cultural technology, a way of encoding survival knowledge into a form that couldn't be ignored, that didn't require literacy or philosophy or explanation. She made winter's rules impossible to forget, because the truth is, winter did judge people. It did punish laziness. It did cut open households that weren't prepared and filled them with emptiness, starvation, cold, death. Perchta just gave that reality a face. She made the abstract concrete. She made consequences personal. She turned the invisible logic of seasonal survival into a figure that walked through your village and knew your name. And in doing so, she saved lives, not through magic, not through supernatural intervention, but through belief, through fear, through the cultural transmission of essential knowledge from one generation to the next. The Alpine villagers who feared Perchta prepared better, worked harder, kept stricter order, and more of them survived winter because of it. That's not superstition. That's adaptation. Today we don't need Perchta. We've engineered our way out of winter's judgment. We've built systems that protect us from seasonal consequences, but maybe we've lost something too. The understanding that order matters, that discipline isn't oppression, it's survival. That rules exist not to control us, but to protect us from forces much larger and colder than any human authority. Perchta knew that. Winter knew that. And for centuries, so did the people who lived in the mountains and survived because they listened. The door is still unlatched somewhere. The fire still burns low. The work still sits undone. And in the deepest part of winter, someone is still watching. Not Perchta herself, not anymore, but the truth she represented. Winter doesn't forgive disorder. It never has.